I work for the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. My name is Lieutenant John Norris. I'm a Special Operations Lieutenant for the Marijuana Enforcement Team of the agency, or what we call the MET team. The MET team is a marijuana enforcement team really structured to fight drug trafficking organizations and cartel elements that are growing marijuana illegally all throughout our wildlands throughout California. We've been involved in 5 officer-involved shootings, basically 5 gunfights with these type of criminals that are very violent to defend their multi-million-dollar cash crop. So because these guys are so violent, we've had to escalate our level of training and commitment to fighting that particular element, because not only of the public safety damages and how dangerous they are, but the egregious damage they're doing to our waterways, our wildlife, and our wildlands. They're using banned toxic poisons and pesticides that aren't even legal to use in this country. They're actually smuggled across the border with our cartel growers to put on the plants. It's become one of the biggest, if not the biggest, wildlife loss crimes we have in California, to the point where we're dedicating a specialized full-time team that I'm very blessed to oversee to fight this particular ecological disaster going on, harming our wildlife. It's very difficult to manage because it's so resource heavy and takes so much funding, so much personnel, so much equipment. To destroy and handle poison plants that are so toxic is a huge challenge, requires a lot of hazmat protocol, safety equipment, so we don't get exposed to this stuff. Contract cleanup crews coming in don't get exposed to this stuff. And how do you dispose of this stuff safely with contamination issues? We only have so much money every year, both in funding, overtime budgets, and so many enforcement challenges all over the state. And that's where conservation-oriented, wildlife protecting-oriented, environmentally oriented support groups, foundations that can help us with public awareness and outreach, send the message, maybe help provide funding, help network not only what's happening here in California, but also throughout the entire rest of the nation, where it's also a pervasive problem. This is not a law enforcement problem exclusively. It's a community problem. It's a public problem, and we all, as citizens of this beautiful country we're blessed to live in, have to address together, and we have to treat it as such. We're seeing several groups. The One Conservation Network obviously is building some really good bridges, not only here in California, to send the conservation message and help all those things we're all about, but also throughout the country. We are disconnecting. We are disconnecting to the things that I think really bring peace in our hearts, and to put it really dramatically, of what wildlife and what our wildlands have to offer. I mean, I was not raised in a rural mountainous part of California. I was born and raised right in Silicon Valley, the technological hub pretty much of the world, and there is so much wildlife and so much open parklands and hunting areas in the foothills around Silicon Valley. I was very lucky to get exposed to all that at a very early age and look for that as I was growing up in an urbanized, very busy, very high-tech world. I was always taking those breaks around school to disconnect. No cell coverage in the backcountry of Henrico Park. No contact with the outside world, but being around people that I could share those experiences with and learn from.